And in the end, when we were coming back out of from my brother's camp, we got caught by a Japanese on a push bike, and he bailed us up, and he was going to shoot us, and we finished up. We told him we belonged to Adam Park camp, we'd only come out for walking. But young spouse, he shot through into the bush, and he was going to shoot us, and we told Spousey to come back, otherwise we were going to get shot, and he was going to, you know, it wasn't right. And because the Jap couldn't understand us, so luckily Spousey came back, and he marched it up to Adam Park camp, because we didn't belong to it, not Adam Park camp, it was the motor transport where all the trucks were. So we had to stay there until dark, and by the time we got back to camp, we were at AWL from camp. Well, unbelievable to think you're AWL from camp, a prison camp, and I was a Lance Corporal, and I was marched up the next day between two guys, put on parade, being AWL, and Colonel Pons dressed me down and said I was being demoted, and that I would have to do so many hours cookhouse duties after I'd been to work. Before I went to work, I had to get up, light the fire for cooking the rice, and clean up all the utensils before I went to work, and I had to do the same of an evening after I came home. So that was my punishment for risking my life, going and taking food over to my brother and my mates that I joined up with. That went on for quite some time, but we had a sergeant in the unit who I wasn't very impressed with him. I can't think of his name yet. Sergeant. I can't think of his name.
No, well, probably doesn't matter.
I'll remember his name later. Anyhow, he was one of the ones that made sure I was put on a charge for being AWL, and he was one of those. Even though you were marching to work for the Japanese, he would say, "Pick up the step, left, right," and I thought, oh, I just say, I can't get off it. I said, we're all in this together. There's no such thing as it being in the army now, we're prisoners of war all together. Left, right, and of course it got to me, and of course when young Matty and I went into Singapore, he reported that to Captain Gwynn, that I'd went AWL through the fence. But Captain Gwynn, I used to cut his hair because I learnt to be a barber while I was a prisoner of war, and I used to cut Captain Gwynn's hair, and Captain Gwynn just ignored it, you know. He thought it was a bit of a joke. He put me in because I went through the barbed wire fence and risked my life by doing that. Anyhow, unbeknown to me, that we had one of the boys was sick, and Tom Pearson was his name, Sergeant Pearson, was knocking off this young lad's issue of rice, and the guys that told me, because they were crooked on me being punished like I was, they said, Pearson's knocking off what's name's rice, so I caught him. That's right. I said, you put me in, I'm putting you in. So I reported him to Captain Gwynn. And so Captain Gwynn had him paraded before him, and my sentence was dismissed, and he had to do what I had to do. He had to get up, light the fire, clean out the coppers where they boiled the rice in for all the meals. Yeah, so I was let off the hook, and I never spoke to Tom Pearson. From the time that happened, even right up to after I came home at Hollywood Hospital, I just couldn't think that he would do such a thing in a prison camp, and I took a dim view of that. I never ever made friends with him.
No.
But that was one of the things that really happened in the camp that was really disappointing.
John, maybe if we could move along now to 1943.
Yeah.
When was the first time you knew that you were going to be going away from, I mean, I presume you didn't know you were going to Japan, did you?
Yeah, and before, yeah, when they started sending working parties away from Singapore, I was in hospital with my eyes. The guys either side of me went totally blind, and they gave us a spoonful of Marmite in the morning and at midday and at lunchtime, and it stopped me from going totally blind. And man, these guys that were totally blind, their eyesight sort of came back to the same as mine. And we were also given rice polishings, which were horrible things. They used to make you vomit to try and get them down. You had to hold your nose and try and swallow. It was a horrible stuff to take. And they used to have orderlies there standing by you to make sure you swallowed it down. But even then, you swallowed it down, you bring it straight back up. So it was vile stuff. It was rice polishings.
Now, was that in Roberts Barracks Hospital?
Yeah, in the hospital.
So who was the doctor that was looking after you? Do you remember? If I suggested a name, a Major Orr?
Yeah, Major Orr.
Yes.
Yeah, Major Orr.
Because he was an eye specialist.
Yeah, he was the eye specialist. And while I was in the hospital, my brother and my two McDonald brothers and Jimmy Elliott, they went on Don Force, I think it was.
Yes.
They went to the Burma Railway.
Yeah.
Then.
And your other mates went to Borneo, didn't they?
Yeah. So the next, when the J Force come up, they said that we're going to be an exchange of prisoners of war, all sick people. So I was selected for J Force, and Jimmy Dore, he had been wounded in action, and he was been joined up with me and my mate, so we were together, and we got put on the Wales Maru to sail to Japan, and I think it was while we were being shipped to Japan, the convoy we were in were attacked by a submarine. And being a hairdresser, I was cutting hair. I was one of the lucky ones I was allowed up on the deck, and the two torpedoes that were fired, they shot across the top of the water in front of our boat. They'd fired them we had a destroyer escorting 11 ships in the convoy, but they fired the torpedoes at the destroyer, but they missed, and we were all herded down below, and the planks were put on the hold and the canvas put over the top, so we couldn't get out. And we thought if they fired another torpedo into the ship, it would get blown up, because we had all this highly inflammable fuel in cans underneath it, the decking, the hole that we were in. So we knew that there was no hope if we had been hit. But after a while, we heard the Japanese screaming out, and they were firing they had an old field gun up the front, and they stopped firing that, and they heard them yelling out and screaming out, and then next thing we knew, the hold was being uncovered again, and that's when when we found they dropped